Now let's talk about the 15th task here we have under the process domain is to manage the project issues. The PMP exam will evaluate your ability to manage the issues that will arise during the course of the project. And issues often emerge from risks that have, let's say, materialized or from unforeseen challenges. So, your ability to identify, address, and collaborate with the stakeholders in resolving these issues is crucial for maintaining the project success. The first point that we're going to cover is to recognize when a risk becomes an issue as part of managing the project issues. So, here the PMP exam will test your understanding of the difference between risks and issues. If you recall, when we say that the risk is potential event that may impact the project, while an issue is a current problem that requires an immediate attention. So you will need to be able to identify early warning signs of risks that are about to become issues. For example, missing the deadlines or resource shortages or changes in scope. Also, you need to be able to understand when the contingency planning and mitigation strategy should be activated to address a potential risk before it escalates. Recognizing when the risks is transition or the um, transitioning from let's say risk into an issue allows you to take preventive actions to minimize the impact on the project objectives. Now let's move to the next point here we have here is to attack the issue with the optimal action to achieve the project success. Once an issue is identified, the exam here may assess your ability to select the best course of action to resolve it. For example, the key actions when we talked about when handling the project issues, for example, conducting root cause analysis or using the tools like the 5 whys or fishbone diagrams to identify the underlying cause of issue. Also, we talked about implementing the corrective actions to address the issues, such as realigning the resources, adjusting the timeline, changing the baselines, or, revising the project scope. Evaluating also the alternatives as part of the optimal action to achieve, let's say, or handle the issues to determine the most effective and efficient solution. So you must demonstrate an understanding of issue resolution techniques such as change management processes when you work on predictive or waterfall projects to resolve the problems without negatively impacting or affecting the project scope, schedule, or cost. The third point we are gonna cover, and it's the final point or the last point this task is to collaborate with the relevant stakeholders on the approach to resolve the issues. And here the PMP exam will test your ability to engage with the stakeholders in addressing the issues. You should be prepared to collaborate with internal and external stakeholders to gain the buy-in for the issue resolution plan. Also be prepared to ensure having a clear communication of the issue, its impact and proposed solutions. Finally, use the negotiation and conflict resolution techniques when stakeholders disagree on approach on resolving the issue. Remember that effective collaboration ensures that the issue is addressed in a way that aligns with the project goals and meets the stakeholder expectations. Final key exam tip here when we talked about managing the project issues. The PMP exam will often integrate the issue management with the risk management, also the stakeholder engagement and change management. So be prepared to answer the questions on recognizing and managing the issues as they arise, selecting the appropriate actions and working with the stakeholder to resolve these issues. We talked about root cause analysis, the corrective actions, and the stakeholder collaboration, which is essential components of the issue management. Task 16 under the process domain is to ensure the knowledge transfer for the project continuity. And the exam or the PMP exam here will test your ability to ensure the effective transfer of knowledge during the course of the project, such as facilitating the project continuity and enabling the team, the project team to meet with the or to meet the project objectives efficiently. Knowledge transfer ensures that the project information or best practices and lessons learned and responsibilities are communicated and understood by all of the stakeholders, both during and after the project. And let's talk about the first point here by discussing the project responsibility with the team. So, this task assess your ability to clearly, let's say, define and communicate the team roles and responsibility to ensure everyone understand their task. And this includes, for example, clarifying the individual roles like the duties, the deliverables expected from each of these roles or responsible persons with the team based on their work and skills. Also, discussing the responsibility about, let's say, the work breakdown structure or the RACI matrix, where you set the responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed for each of the project activities. We talked about the project structure or the WBS and how to assign the team member to the WBS. It's very important here because it sets the expectation from each of these team members. Also, you can analyze the team member based on their skills, ensuring that each of the team members is aligned and allocated to the right skill. Next, you have assigning tasks based on the expertise and ensuring the team members are clear on their accountability and performance expectations. And here the exam may assess your ability to facilitate the team meeting, for example, or kickoff sessions to ensure that everyone understands their specific contribution to the project. And the next topic that we are going to cover, a part of ensuring the knowledge transfer and the project continuity, is outlining the expectation for the working environment. And the exam here will test your ability to establish a positive and collaborative work environment that fosters the productivity, communication, and accountability. This includes setting clear expectation for the teamwork, including the communication and the conflict resolution ways. Also, ensure that you have to create a safer space, let's say for open communication, where teams members feel encouraged to share their ideas and concerns, having a collaborative way of solving the problems. Finally, here defining the norms for the engagement, such as the response time, meeting protocols, and collaboration tools to ensure a smoother project execution. So, this is how you outline the expectation for the working environment and your team. And here you may be asked about strategies for ensuring that the working environment promotes the trust, respect, and effective collaboration among diverse stakeholders. The third and last point here we have as part of the project knowledge is to confirm the approach for knowledge transfers. The exam will assess your understanding on knowledge transfer methods and how to ensure the continuity of throughout the project life cycle, where you should demonstrate the ability to identify the knowledge transfer needs, such as training, whether you need to transfer that knowledge by doing a training or just documentation or documenting and mentoring. Next, you might also demonstrate that ability by facilitating a formal knowledge transfer sessions like the workshops, documentations, or handoffs. Sometimes team meeting that you can do to ensure that the critical information is shared among the team members stakeholders. Finally, here that you need to document the lessons learned and share this knowledge with both current and future teams to ensure ongoing improvement and project continuity. You may also encounter questions related to the handovers between the project phases or teams, ensuring that the lessons learned and relevant information and skills are passed or without are passed to next teams to ensure that it happens without disrupting the project progress. And my final exam tip here, we talked about the exam that integrates the knowledge management with the team collaboration, communication management, stakeholder engagement. So be prepared to answer questions on role definition, expectations for the collaborative environment, and knowledge transfer practices to ensure the project continuity. And this includes documenting the lessons learned and using a formal knowledge management strategies to facilitate learning and reduce knowledge gaps. And the final, let's say, task under the process domain here with task 17 by planning and managing the project phase closure or transition. The PMP exam will evaluate your ability here to ensure a structured and efficient project or phase closure, confirming that all of the projects or the project objectives are met, deliverables are accepted, and necessary transitions are completed. Think of the proper closure that minimizes the risks and ensures the organizational learning and releases these to this project, uh, you know, uh, happens effectively. And the first point here we are going to cover under the task 17 is to determine criteria to successfully close the project or phase. And the exam here will test your ability or may test your ability on understanding of the formal closure processes, which we talked during the final stage when closing the project or phase, which involves verifying all of the project deliverables and objectives are completed. And this includes, for example, ensuring that all of the requirements are met as per the project scope statement and acceptance criteria. Also, obtaining the formal sign off from the stakeholders or clients, as well as one of these criteria that can be considered as ensuring that all of the contractual obligations, like the procurement or vendor agreements, are fulfilled and closed. So, expect scenario based question on choosing or closing criteria or the project closing criteria, where you must determine whether a project is ready for closure or if an additional work is needed before the final sign off. The next key topic we're going to discuss here as part of, let's say, planning and managing the project phase closure is to validate the readiness for transition to the operation team or to the next phase. So the PMP exam here will test your ability to facilitate smooth transitions from the project team to the operation team or the next project phase, a multi-phase project. And this validation for readiness will include like handing over, let's say, the documentation, such as materials or training materials, user manuals for the system or tools, and also the operational procedures. Also, it will include conducting knowledge transfer sessions with the operational teams to ensure that they can sustain the deliverables post the project and use it efficiently. As well as you can evaluate the transition risks and ensures that the stakeholders are prepared for the post-project responsibilities. So you may be asked to identify the gaps on transition readiness and recommend corrective actions. The final point here we have is to cover is to conclude the activities to close out the project or phase as part of the planning and managing the project phase task. The project closure requires a final administrative and financial wrap up. The exam here may assess your ability to conduct lessons learned sessions or retrospective and agile project to capture the best practices and improvement areas. Also, you may be assessed on how to close the procurement by, for example, finalizing the payment, verifying the contracts of completion, and obtaining the vendor feedback. Also, you can check on the, let's say, how you can release the resources, including the team members or budgetary allocation. And for example, let's say, providing an access to the system that you have developed as part of your project. So these exam questions may present a scenario where the project closure is incomplete, and you, as a project manager, you need to identify the missing step to ensure the comprehensive and compliant closure process. So think of a scenario-based question where there's a missing, let's say, document, a missing deliverables. Let's say how you have to handle it, or how, for example, you've completed all of these final administrative processes, all of the deliverables have been accepted by the stakeholders. Now, what is next? For example, we talked about lessons learned, ensuring that the procurement is closed, ensuring the proper documentation. So, think of these questions as scenario based questions where it will test your ability on the closure process. And my final exam tip here is we say that the PMP exam will integrate the project closure with the stakeholder engagement, procurement management, and knowledge transfer. So be well prepared to answer the questions on criteria, for example, for the closure, for handling the transition readiness, and probably, let's say, finalizing the financial and contractual obligations. So focus on ensuring that all of these, all loose ends are tied up when closing the project, including capturing the lessons learned to benefit the future projects.